I met up with Scott Cavanaugh virtually, and we're going to share some comedy tips with you right now. First, I want to kind of like dive in a little bit about you, like who is Scott? Where are you from, dude? And why did you get into comedy?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This is pretty cool. Hopefully, it keeps going and we get a lot of people to do it and everything. But yeah, it's important to just have conversations as you're trying to come up. And yeah, I don't know if I have that much more experience, but I've been doing comedy since college. I'm 5 years out of college now. So I grew up in Massachusetts, Boston area. And I went to school at the University of New Hampshire, and not a blossoming stand-up scene, but I did improv. Enjoyed that. They had a stand-up competition once a year that I did twice. It went well enough that I was like, I think I want to pursue that. Cat behind me going out the window. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it started. And I was naive enough and I guess arrogant enough to literally do stand up once sophomore year of college and was like, oh yeah, I could do this for a career. And moved out here after college and was humbled pretty quickly by LA, but it's been good. It's been like 4 or 5 years now, and just keep going, just keep doing them. Obviously weird with COVID, but that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, you said we humbled by LA. What do you mean by humbled by LA?
Well, I was like literally, I did the stand up competition my sophomore year of college and I won. And I'd never done stand up. So I thought I was like a prodigy. But what I didn't realize was, hey, man, you're basically just trying to be Bill Burr doing Louis C.K.'s material on stage. Like, I don't like just trying to channel them. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And then a year later did it again and was like, yeah, I'm the best. And then come to LA and it's like, oh, you're not, everyone did this in college. You're not cool anymore. You're not unique. You have to find your own voice pretty quickly and start working on that. Like, and you just go to open mics and it's like, I was really cool in New Hampshire. I was very interesting. And then like everyone else at the open mic is like, yeah, I was cool in Albuquerque. Like you're not unique anymore. You have to actually work. And like, I just thought it was going to be way easier than it was, to be honest. But just even like literally driving to an open mic in Los Angeles is like an hour and a half. You put your name on a list. It's like, oh man, this is a process. So you figure that out pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you on that. We're a dime a dozen here in LA. There's so many comedians, or, there's a lot of, I would say, right, there's a lot of actors in this industry as
Sure.
well who, are just looking to get out and create. So even if their goal is not even to be some famous comedian, some big, professional comedian, their goal is to create. So on their night off, or, they're just trying to get out, they'll come out and take up a lot of stage time to
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
up on stage, and rightfully so. I mean, we all have that right to get up and create. But I've encountered that with, there's just
Sure.
so many people fighting for mic time, fighting for time. And yeah, there's a
Yeah.
I found that very interesting when I got in this business.
I remember going to an open mic with a friend who supported me, and we're sitting there, and my friend is trying to talk me up. And I was like, dude, you gotta stop. And he was like, no, dude, it's cool. He's like, hey, my boy opened for Jay Farrow in college. And everyone at the open mic is like, yeah, I opened for XYZ comedian in college. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm like, dude, you have to stop telling people that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people, and you just got to find a way to make relationships and keep going. I don't know. It's still going now. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny. It's funny you say that, because I've met a lot of comics where I've looked up their websites and I don't know them, uh, but you see in their bio they're like, "Oh, I opened up for Jamie Foxx," or "I
yeah,
opened up for," and some of them are like obscure comics
yep,
that aren't even like super mainstream comics, and they've opened up for them. I don't think that's really a selling point.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, maybe if you went on tour, if you say like, "Oh, I was on tour," with Joe Coy last year, maybe, okay, maybe, but
That's what I mean by naive too. I thought it was a selling point, and like the first time I got here, I did an improv class, and a buddy of mine was like, you got to make a website, dude. And I went on Wix. I made my own website. I was like, I got to post it on my birthday because people will be on my Facebook on my birthday. So I rushed to record all these open mic sets on my birthday, and they were even if you do good in open mic, like it's not like rip roaring laughter. So it was like these really quiet sets inside these like bars, and my friends were just like, dude, you all right, man? What's going on out there? I'm like, what? You don't understand. And the website doesn't exist anymore. It's like $20 a month. I don't think anyone visited it besides my mom. I had it for like 2 years. What a waste. But yeah, it's just like the stupid stuff you do when you start to try and figure it out, and you're just doing all this weird stuff. But yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you, like, Scott, so have you been doing comedy during quarantine? And if so, how and where?
Yeah. So at the beginning, not really. I don't think anyone knew what to do, but I tried doing Zoom shows. I wasn't very good at them. I don't really like them. I would be open to doing them just to kind of stay fresh and to kind of force yourself to write more. But I got really lucky in like late July, August. The producer that I used to do shows at the Comedy Store with, Tammy Joe, she just basically was like, she couldn't do the Comedy Store anymore because it's closed. So she was like, I'm not doing comedy. So she set up this show with the Magic Castle in Hollywood, and they rented out the lot, and they basically do a drive-in show. And she hustled and had a stage built, and they play it through the radio. And so I've been lucky enough to continue working that and get a little stage time in exchange for the work. And then, which is just awesome because it's not a ton of, it's getting up there where it's weekly, but it's not a ton of like minutes or anything. But compared to what else is going on in COVID and quarantine, it's amazing. I'm super lucky to be part of it, and there's some big names that have done it. So that's really the one thing that I've done is those shows at the Magic Castle drive-in style. It's very weird in front of the cars, but praise to them for like taking the initiative, and they literally built a stage out of wood, and it's like it's impressive what they put together. I'm super lucky to kind of be a part of it. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I dude, when I first started seeing you do those shows, I was so excited for you.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you could throw some names out there, but I know I saw Bill Burr. He's done a bunch of the shows. I'm trying to think of some other names, but it's just always a huge lineup, and I'm just like, I'm very impressed.
Well, it's again, I'm just very lucky to be a part of it with Tammy specifically, because she just took the initiative and was like, hey, if you help, like, let's keep going. And a lot of people don't even want to try and do anything remotely, like outdoor or in a normal setup. So it's really cool that she did that. Yeah, I mean, Bill Burr did a couple, and a lot of big names, they don't have as much opportunity either. So anywhere they can get up, even if it's a weird scenario. Eliza's done a bunch of them. I mean, Jay Farrow has done some. David Spade has done some. Like, really big names, and it's awesome. And they like it. I think they like the challenge of it. So it's just like I'm like pinching myself to be a part of it and like handing them microphones. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Are you doing a lot of hosting the shows?
Yeah, I've hosted a couple. And it's bizarre in front of the cars, but it's been like a few hosting, but definitely more just normal, like quick sets in the lineup.
Right. That's awesome, man. And if anyone watching this doesn't know the Magic Castle is a fantastic place here in Hollywood, California. It is a invite-only place where magicians from all over the world come and perform, and you have to get on their list. They'll invite you and bring you out, and you can have dinner. And then they have, like, I believe there's 6 or 7 different rooms of all sizes, small rooms for close-up magic, all the way up to big theaters. And I've had the pleasure to be in there a few times, and I love it. Yes, I absolutely love the Magic Castle. And then when I saw they were doing the comedy shows, I was like, that's awesome. That's legit because it's on the hill. It's a nice little view of Hollywood. And I was really impressed with that. But that's awesome, dude. That's fantastic. I've had the pleasure of doing a few COVID shows myself, but they have been the backyard, back alley shows, which I'm happy to do as long as they're safe and people are wearing masks and stuff like that.
Right.
And I do like some of these drive-up shows because you are kind of you're following social distancing because everyone's in their cars and stuff. So that's impressive. It's funny you mentioned the virtual shows. You're not a huge fan of it and whatnot. I was going to ask you what your thoughts are about virtual shows, as far as, you know, should comedians be doing them? What are your thoughts on it? You know, say COVID's over. Do you think they're around to stay? Do you think
Yeah,
it's just a
maybe.
fad?
I'm not the biggest fan because I don't think I'm very good at them, which only takes, more time practicing it and stuff. But here's why I think they are good. It forces you to kind of stay active and at least write during quarantine when, as a comedian, you're not observing a lot of new stuff, which is kind of important to have life experiences to write. So at least it's forcing you to try and get creative. I think objectively, they're never going to be good as like a normal performance, but it might be, the best situation now. So why not do them? Why not try? I think they're getting better. People are figuring out timing and how to deal with lag and stuff. But I'm definitely open to doing more. I'm just not great at it in the room, as I don't know if any of us are yet. But they could be here to stay. Or like what you're doing, I think is really smart, where you're showing people's old stand-up, but then you're kind of doing like a trivia on and get to know you and everything like that. I think comics probably appreciate that. It makes it a little bit more unique too. So it's kind of like a nice combination hybrid that you got.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, Scott. So last season I was doing that. I was showing, and I think it was because people hadn't really learned how to perform virtual comedy. We've had nearly a year, and I've seen a lot of comics evolve and get good in this little box that we have. It's definitely a different style. From my experience, I've been doing it a lot. It's more of a conversation like we're having right now. So if I'm going to sit here and run through my jokes, right, it's me talking to Scott and telling Scott my story and my jokes, opposed to expecting an audience, waiting, pausing and expecting that one lead laugher in the audience to start laughing, and then you just start hearing it roll through the room. You can't do that in a virtual sense. And plus, people have their mics muted, so you don't even hear them laughing if they are laughing. Right. So you just have to have more of a conversational style. I've seen a lot of comics do well with props and whatnot. They introduce props and stuff. Not that we're trying to be a prop comics, but again, you're working with the space we're given. Yeah. My show, the thing that's evolved into my next season is this season I am letting comics do 4 to 5 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Because they have had time to work on their comedy over the last year. And it's really interesting. But I've had mixed responses from people liking the videos of past shows versus doing the live shows.
I liked it because I didn't have to. It was lazy for me. I could just send you an old clip that I had. It was like, oh, cool. I don't have to, because I did ones where you had to like try and write new jokes too. And I've always thought I need to write more. It's just, I think, natural for anyone, any comedian, they always think that. But it's like nothing's really happening. Or at the time, at least, it was like April or May, nothing was happening. So it's like, what am I going to write about? I don't know. Everyone's doing quarantine jokes, so it's like, I'll try. But maybe it'd be better now. I don't know. I haven't done one in a while, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, dude. I mean, the virtual shows can be hit or miss. They just can. I mean, I've had shows that have gone very well, and I've had shows that you say your jokes, you're going through your routine, you're trying to interact with people in the Zoom panel when you see other people, and people just staring at you. You're a deer in headlights, and you're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to push on through it. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to ask you, if I was starting comedy today, brand new comic, I just had this epiphany, like I should do comedy.
Yep.
I'm going to be great at it. What are a few tips that Scott Cavanaugh would give to a new comedian if you ran into him?
Sure. So we talking like right now during COVID, or like normal scenario?
That's a great follow-up question. I don't know. I think, I mean, just either or. I mean, if you're just starting off, I don't think all right, if you're just starting off, you're not going to get on the stage necessarily on day one to perform in front of a live audience. But if it's just day one, I mean, it could be, going the virtual route, or, if COVID wasn't happening, because someone might watch this video in 3 years and not really have to worry about virtual shows. They just want to do the classical, get up on stage mics and stuff like that. So however you want to give tips, Scott.
Yeah, sure. I think first thing you should do is think about any time that you've told a story or like a joke that's kind of unique to you that really made like roommates or friends or family like genuine laugh. Think about it and then just try and work that premise. Try and remember it. Try and write out why it was funny. Try and base it off that instead of just writing like straight up punchline jokes. So just think of those if you can. I assume if you're trying comedy, you've probably been told that you're funny, or you've had experiences where you're always seeing when you're talking, people are laughing. So try and base it off those. Write it out, talk it out. The way I do it is I just walk around the block and talk. And if it made me think, laugh, or giggle to myself, I get out the phone, type in the premise, come back and work on it. I like walking and talking it out.
Now, are you talking to yourself?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
But if I think it's funny and maybe it was a story that worked, that made my roommates laugh before, I'll try it on some different friends over the phone or something. And I'm kind of a scumbag where I don't go like, hey, I'm going to try a premise now. I just try and work it in. And if it seems to be working, it's like, all right, let me do that. So like one that I used to do a lot when I started was like this cat that's behind me. I adopted it. It was a rescue. And like, oh, I'm a hero. And everyone's like, oh, that's really sweet. You did that. And it's one of my biggest regrets of all time is adopting this cat, which is kind of true. I was not ready for any amount of responsibility. But like I said, it was this weird thing where I was like trying to say I was a good person for adopting it, but I also hated the cat. So, and like people would laugh when I told like that scenario. I was like, all right, let me just work on it. Why do I hate him, but why do I like him? And then like would work it out. And then if you have the ability to go to an open mic, go to as many as you can, even if you don't get up. I mean, Los Angeles is, I don't know if people know, you don't always get up if it's like a lottery or they run out of time, but at the very least you're watching other people. Just consume as much content as you can. Like, why do you like that comic? Was it their way they moved on stage? Was it the way they talked? The way I really fell in love with comedy was just listening to like hundreds, maybe at this point thousands and thousands of podcasts about comedy. And just watching so much stand-up. That's all I did in college. That's all I did when I got out here. And you just like find out what resonates with you and why you think it's funny, and just have conversations with other people. It's like comedy is very subjective, and people don't. I love comics, and my friends would be like, "Yeah, they're not funny, man." And I'm like, "Why? Why?" Because I just want to know what's not hitting with them that just hits with me so hard. So
yeah.
Try writing what you know, what other made people laugh, develop it. If you can get up on stage, great, and try it out. But just at the beginning, just absorb as much as you can. Like, so many podcasts out there now, so many just stand-up clips on YouTube, and just see what's working and why do you think it's working. Just analyze it at the beginning. And right now, it's probably in quarantine. If you start, I think consume more than anything right now and analyze it, because you can't really get up. So that would be my basic advice. And if you like comedy, like I was so obsessed, and still am, but so obsessed in college with the idea of stand-up. I mean, I probably listened to Mark Maron's WTF like daily, like thousands of episodes of just different comedians and how they came up, writers, improvisers, stand-ups. And it's like, there's so much information. And everyone does it a little differently. So just pick what you like and see what works. And yeah, that would be the gist of it, I guess.
Awesome, dude. That's fantastic advice. Scott, 1 second, dude. I'm hearing like a buzzing going off. Hold 1 second.
Do your thing.
All right.
Cool. I love the unicorn, by the way.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I have that. I have masks. I have little unicorns. I'm a unicorn freak, bro. I actually did a podcast recently. I was invited to do a podcast, and the guy was like, "All right, first question, bro. What's up with all your unicorns?" He's like, dude, I went on your Instagram, your YouTube, your TikTok. You got unicorns everywhere. Like, man, I like unicorns and rainbows.
Hell yeah.
They make me smile. They make me happy. And, you know, I say this all the time because my wife said it. She said, I'm like the gayest straight dude she's ever met. You know? Hey man, it's you know, I like rainbows and unicorns. They make me happy. They make me smile. And, you know, that's just my thing.
There you
And
go.
anytime I like wear my unicorn mask out in public and stuff, people are laughing, taking photos and stuff. And, I like making people smile and happy. So that's my thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Hey, if they're laughing,
something I connected with years ago and
yeah,
just kind of stuck with it.
I love it. I love
Um,
it.
so if you could go back in time and talk to Scotty Cavanaugh on day
Yeah.
one of your comedy venture, I know this is kind of like going off of what you said before, but what
Yep.
would you say to yourself, like comedy strategy? Like, here's what you're gonna do, bro. This is the plan you're gonna take. Like, this is how we're gonna attack it. Like,
Yep.
what would you do?
I love that question. Because yeah, well, the person in college, I would say, dude, first thing you got to do, and I know you've been on stage twice, but you got to shed the idea of like trying to do a character that's not authentically you. Like when I started, my two idols were Bill Burr and Louis C.K. I was a Boston guy. It was like 2012. So I was like literally trying to have like the attitude of Bill Burr, but like doing self-deprecation jokes like Louis. And it was like, dude, I think you're just trying to embody these people. And it was working in college because I think it was just, I was young and people thought it was, you got so much credit for just being on stage when you were 17 or 18. So like, you didn't have to have like incredible jokes. I think people just respected that you would go on stage. So it was just like jokes about me being out of shape. And I was trying to do it with attitude like Bill Burr. And the first thing I'd be like is, dude, start just being authentically you, which takes time to try and figure that out and
Yeah.
discover it. You're always going to resonate with your idols, but do that more, which back on the East Coast in New Hampshire, there wasn't a ton of practice. You couldn't really do open, there's not a huge open mic scene in like random Durham, New Hampshire, where I went to college. So that would be the first thing. But I would say as soon as you get to LA, you got to get up way more. It took me like, I had a day job that was super stressful. It was sales. So I didn't do many open mics in my first year. I could probably less than like a dozen, to be honest. And it took me like 3 or 4 months to get out there. And it was just like, man, you should have been doing way more. You should have been writing way more. And you totally could have. And you were lazy and you didn't know. You just didn't get it yet. And it's like to have experiences. The way I first met TK with Rebels of Comedy is because I took an improv class with someone who was doing improv but had done stand-up and already knew TK. And I had one open mic video that I thought was decent. It was on Facebook. And I was like, how are you doing? You're younger than me, man. How are you doing booked shows? And he was like, oh, I did this is how I did it, but I'll introduce you and it's Bringers and here's how it works. And it was like, the only reason I got that that was 2 years in. And the only reason I got that is because I took an improv class. And then from there, I met someone that had done shows at the Comedy Store. And they're like, you're funny. Where do you want to perform? It could be a dream to do the Comedy Store. And they were like, oh, I have an in over there. Let me bring you over there. Do you have any people that you know? And it's very networky. And I was like, I do these pop-up shows here, here, and here. I'll introduce you. And then that's kind of how it works at the beginning. And you just like,
Yeah.
but it's all about putting yourself in experiences. And the only way you're going to do that is by going to open mics and sitting at tables with strangers and going to support each other, like trying to go to your Bringer shows or come on your comedy show, like do the interview right now. It's just like everyone has to help each other at this level and put yourself in more opportunities by just doing more. Just do more. You're lazy, man. That's the constant refrain that I have. Whether or not I really am, I'm not sure. I definitely think I could write more. I think a lot of people look at like you or me and probably like, you're doing all this extra stuff with interviews and your show. I don't know if you feel like I should still be doing more, but I'm always like, dude, you got to write more. You got to get some online content like a podcast or a YouTube channel going. Like, I think you'll always feel that way, but so just do it. Do it. I still give myself that advice, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic advice. You mentioned Bringers. For anyone watching this that doesn't know what a Bringer is, can you tell us what a Bringer is and what are your thoughts on Bringers?
I think Bringers, a Bringer show is when you're starting comedy typically, and a booker or a producer is putting on a show at a club or a bar will say, hey, yeah, I'll give you stage time. You seem funny. But in exchange, you have to get your friends, family, coworkers, whatever, to come out and pay for the show. And they're going to see their friend perform and other comedians. It should be a good show. But the only way you get stage time is if you can get people out. I think that Bringers I mean, it's just kind of how you do it at the beginning. It's funny in LA. It's a very big thing. Bringer shows. I have friends back in Boston that they don't have to do bringer shows. Like it's not part of the Boston scene as much.
Yeah.
And the way it was described to me is like, well, we don't have industry here, so like the bookers don't make us bring people. And I was like, well, not a lot of industry come to our shows either. But yeah, you just it's I don't know. I maybe it's not great for the comic at a certain point. It's tough, but
Yeah.
maybe it's good because it forces you to make those relationships. Like I don't know. What do you think about it? It gets hard after like a year and a half of doing them. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I think you know, my experience with bringers before we got locked down was some people had good bringers and some people didn't.
Yep.
So, you know, we've mentioned TK. Anyone watching this, he's a comedian and he's a comedy producer and book shows. He does a lot of bringer shows. I like his shows. I
Yep.
think he puts together, for the most part, he puts together really good comedians. And they're in good locations, which is, I
Yeah.
think, key,
Huge.
right? So if you're going to invite people out to a show, inviting them out to, you know, the Ice House, which is a very well-known comedy club, respected comedy club here, you know, and he's doing shows there, it's more likely to get people out to those versus, you know, Joe Schmo Booker trying to get you to come out to some back alley warehouse no one's ever heard of. Do they even have a bar? You know, where do I park? People just don't get it. And if you bring people out to a show like that, the problem with that is you might tarnish your relationship with your friends and family to get them to come out to future shows. You know,
Yeah.
so
100%.
I think, you know, as comedians, we have to be choosy. We have to be picky on what shows we choose in that regard. It's like an actor, you know, they're
You have to
reading
be
through
strategic,
scripts,
sure.
right? And they're got to go, you know, do I want to do this movie or do I want to do this movie? Which one is going to be better for my future? I
Yeah.
think it's the same regard. You know, you have to look at these shows and go, okay, it's a bringer, so I'm choosing this too. It's not like someone's saying, hey, I'm going to pay you $500 to do the show. They're saying, no, you come do the show. We're going to give you stage time in exchange for bringing people. So now I get to choose, like, do I really want to do that?
Yep.
So I think you have to be choosy. I like them. I like TK shows. I've done a few other people's shows I like. And I've done some where I'm like, okay, I'll never do that one again. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing that in virtual shows too. I've already done some virtual shows where they're like, oh yeah, it's a bringer, and I'm like, okay, that's funny. Like I don't think so. And then I've seen a few virtual shows where they're like, okay, we'll give you 4 minutes for free, but if you want, you know, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we're going to charge you a fee. I'm
A
like,
bringer fee.
no, like why would I pay to be on your show?
I got really lucky too in normal times. I had a run of like bringers for like I would say 18 months, and what I saw was like at the beginning everyone wanted to come, like coworkers that I didn't even know, like we were friends. We're like, dude, I want to come see you do stand up, and I just want to see stand up. And it slowly just dwindled and dwindled. So people were like, I can't come, and it is tough because it's like 15-20 bucks, 2 drink minimum, blah blah blah. And at like that 18th month mark, it was really hard to get people to come still because I was working on doing new jokes, but they've heard my stuff before and they've seen a lot of the other comics. But then what happened was I think I had proven myself enough that I started getting to host. And when I hosted on those Rebel shows, at least with TK, you weren't required to bring people. You try to, and people want to see you host. But it's like, okay, wow, I've made my way into not doing bringers and still having an opportunity to perform. Great.
Yeah.
And at the Comedy Store shows, I did bringer. I think I did like 7 to 10 bringer shows, and I always got enough people out. I always did well. Sometimes I did really well to the point where like, okay, you can just be on the show now, no bringers required. But you are going to help. You are going to set up or run sound and break down. It's like, okay, that's the next step. So
Yeah.
and then hopefully you get good enough where you don't have to keep setting up and breaking down, but that could be years away, and it's like whatever, it's part of the process. But yeah, I think there's a shelf life for bringers unless you keep making new friends. But
Yeah.
hopefully you can work your way up to other areas or avenues for sure.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Mhm.
I did want to ask you this. What are you still trying to figure out? What are you still trying to learn?
Ooh, a lot. How to build better habits around writing consistently and coming up with new stuff, which I think will be more, will hit more in like the summer when maybe clubs start opening back up. Right now, it's like, I don't even know, but that would be like just a personal thing. And then two, like getting over the fear or the awkwardness of just inserting yourself and like schmoozing more. Like on the like whether they're bigger comics or they're like your contemporaries, like how can I just like be not so obvious about like, hey, I'm talking to you like we're all comedians, but obviously I want an opportunity down the road that sounds really scummy. How do I become a genuine friend with you to like, and what can I help you with? And it's just like, it's such a kind of awkward thing. So just getting more comfortable with that or finding the right way to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, like this is super helpful. Like I'm so appreciative you had me on. This is like one of those things. And it's like, okay, what can I do for Chris in the future that's not like just like a transactional thing because you want it to be genuine. So it's like, it's kind of awkward, but like just getting better at that and more comfortable and just accepting that. I don't know what answer that is, but those would be kind of the two big things, I think.
Yeah.
And then getting more of an online presence, like maybe doing a podcast, or I have some ideas for YouTube I just haven't executed out of laziness and also just figuring out how I want to do it. But part of it is just starting. So those would be the big three, I think.
Fantastic, dude. That's really good. And YouTube, I suggest too. I mean, if you don't have a huge YouTube channel, not that mine's huge, but if you don't have a huge online social media presence, I think as a comedian, as an actor, as a musician, as any type of artist, I really think we do have to really push our social media as much as we can. It's just another way to become more visible. I think the best thing you can do as a comedian is be funny. But you know what's funny is there's a lot of comedians who I think are hilarious that probably never get seen because they don't have their social media, they don't have their YouTube, or you know what I've been seeing a lot lately. I've seen a few people come out of the woodwork who are hilarious, who've been in this business for a long time, but they've been doing cruise ships and corporate shows for years, and that's why none of us know who they are. But I think with quarantine and everything, they've had to refocus their energy, and now they're coming out, and I'm like, who the hell is this?
Right.
And some of these people are just blowing up, and I'm like, they're so funny, but they've been doing this for 20, 30 years, and they have so much experience, but and a lot of people don't realize that there's club performers.
Yes.
But then there's corporate performers. There's the college circuit. And then there's cruise ships. Like there's all these, which, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future for cruise ships, right?
Right.
but like,
you can make good money on a cruise ship, even though it's weird. You can make bank. Yeah,
absolutely. I've heard how much they make, and it's insane how much they make. And they'll do, one show a day or maybe 2 shows a day, and and it's just
and the college circuit, college campus, you can make tons on the college circuit. You typically got to be clean or cleaner.
Yeah.
It's like, and you just don't, they're not doing late night sets on Conan or whatever, but they're making a ton of money. They're enjoying it. And now they have to pivot and get online. It's like, whoa, dude, there's a whole nother marketplace. I've just never seen you before. I've just never even knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they're so funny. All right. Well, thank you, Scott, for everything. I, want to let people know who you are. Like, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, it's at Scotty Cav Comedy on Instagram. On Facebook, you can find it the same way. I think there's an official link, but if you type that in, you'll find it. But I'm doing those Magic Castle shows. They're going to a weekly Saturday thing, so check your listings for that. Even if I'm not on them, because they usually do multiple shows a night. I'm on one, or sometimes it rotates every week. But check them out. It's such a cool experience. It's at nightout.com. You can buy tickets. They have them booked all the way through February. And those are the two big things. Keep an eye on Scotty Cav Comedy for YouTube or TikTok down the line. Gonna pull the trigger on those eventually. Just slow, just being lazy. So working on that. But those would be the big ways. And thanks so much for having me, Chris. This is really cool. Just the conversation is nice to see what people are feeling and thinking about how they work their way up and everything like that. So appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you being here, brother.
Cool.
All right, man. Take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for tuning in. That was some awesome tips from Scott Cavanaugh. We love you so much. Make sure you go check him out. Information in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're dropping new content every week. If you're a new comedian and want some advice, ask below. We will try to help you out with whatever we can. What do you think our next video should be? Who should I interview? Who shouldn't I interview? Let's discuss.